Good afternoon, folks. My name is Balaji Siva. I am Director of Product Management at Cisco. Today I want to talk about how virtual networking and virtual switching is evolving to address the requirements of the data center and then the cloud as we look forward. Let me talk about how, while we do that, we need to have open choices in the virtual networking in general across the hypervisors. If you look at the virtual switching in general, and this becomes the primary vehicle to be able to provide networking in the virtualized data center and the cloud data center going forward. And having an open choice is a very good requirement across hypervisors. Obviously, you have the native vSwitches that you come along with the different hypervisors, either it's Hyper-V or a KVM or a vSphere, but also it is incumbent upon the providers of the hypervisor to also provide choices for you as you look for different solutions from different vendors. So having a third-party option or an open source option is good for end users. The good news, I guess, is that there has been a good mix of third-party as well as the native vSwitches across all these hypervisors. If you look across the industry, basically, so VMware, we have obviously the native vSwitches. You have the Cisco vSwitch, HP, and IBM. If you look at Hyper-V, Microsoft has a vSwitch, but also has open APIs to create third-party to create their own vSwitches in general. And KVM, of course, you have the native Linux bridge, or obviously you have the OVS, where multiple vendors have contributed to basically an open source approach to vSwitching. So in a way, all of these are goodness, and I think hope the industry continues along this trend. Now, speaking of Cisco, that's where I want to spend the next of the 10 minutes or so on what we have been doing in this space. So we introduced the Nexus 1000, which is our vSwitch, primarily on the VMware vSphere solution back in 2009 timeframe, or 5 to 6 years ago. And since then we have expanded our portfolio to include Hyper-V and KVM. The primary reason we did that is because some of our customers who use our physical Nexus infrastructure has come to us and asked for similar policies and similar features and functionalities so that their networking admins or their security admins is able to use similar features across the physical infrastructure and the virtual infrastructure. It used to be physical servers, and they're able to control and manage the physical server with a certain feature set. As they move to the virtual world, they need to be able to do that in the virtual world as well. And also, if you look across the different hypervisors, having a consistent choice in virtual networking is a good thing for you, because you can be sure that you can apply the same policies, whether it's virtual or physical infrastructure, whether it's vSphere or Hyper-V or KVM in general. And that's one of the big things we did with the Nexus 1000. We have more than 10,000 customers in the last 6 years or so, and we continue to add more customers as we go along. As we look forward into sort of the evolution part of it that I talked about earlier, where more automation and more agility is needed in the data center, Cisco introduced something called the application-centric infrastructure, where you have you define the application profile in a more basically a centralized application policy infrastructure controller, and then that policy controller will then automatically program the physical infrastructure. So as you add application or you remove application, those configurations are automatically added or removed from the infrastructure. That includes all the physical switches as well as the virtual switches. So to help in that process, we introduced something called application virtual switch, which is basically a vSwitch which pairs with the APIC controller to create basically the true virtual and physical infrastructure policy controller. That's sort of first in the industry. I don't think there's anybody who has that. Either you have vendors provide virtual overlay or virtual only solutions, or some sort of integration into the physical infrastructure, but it's not a complete end-to-end solution where you can fully manage and control and automate the whole networking infrastructure in the data center. And that's one of the things that the ACI provides. Now, specifically on the virtual side, the AVS integrates with the APIC, so you manage both those policies along with the physical infrastructure. As you create policies, as your workload could be bare metal today and maybe virtualized tomorrow, you don't have to worry about policy enforcement changing just because you're moving your workload from a bare metal to a Hyper-V or a KVM or a vSphere. You are assured of similar policy enforcement across all these portfolios. And also you get the end-to-end visibility. So we have something called atomic counters that allows you to monitor traffic packets, the application packets end-to-end from virtual all the way to the physical to the virtual. That gives you a comfort level that if you're having application problems, you know exactly where the issues are happening, and that's one of the benefits of using ACI. Now, as we look some of the details around our application virtual switch, some of the benefit it provides is obviously ability to enforce policies between different endpoint groups. Endpoint groups is what we define as different tiers of application, for example. For example, you have a web tier and an app tier, and you have some policies between these two tiers that needs to be enforced. Typically, you enforce at the physical layer with the physical workloads, but then obviously in a virtual workload, you can have this two tiers of VM sitting on the same server, and you need to be able to enforce those policies consistently along with the physical. So with the AVS, you're able to provide policy enforcement that includes routing if it needs to be routed between the two endpoint groups. Between the app and the web tier. It could be in the firewalling technologies as well. So that's a pretty interesting way to sort of essentially get to a point where we're able to really provide a fully seamless integrated solution with across virtual and physical networks. Like I mentioned before, the main benefit of this is that you have the same policy applied consistently, and you get the end-to-end visibility. Now, also as you look towards, now you've built a private cloud infrastructure, now you want to go to a hybrid cloud or a public cloud or build a hybrid cloud technology, so you need to figure out what is the right way to do it. I think obviously you can choose some of the vendors who provide a one-to-one mapping, meaning if I want to go to Amazon, then you have a Amazon connectivity, for example, or Azure, you have Azure connectivity, but you want to be able to have the flexibility to choose multiple providers if needed. One of the benefits of choosing multiple providers is you have a choice, and of course you can choose the right cloud for the right application for the right price. So Cisco is interested in providing you that facility to be able to go to any cloud. Our goal is that you should have no vendor lock-in going to any particular public cloud service. So you should also have any hypervisor support, either it's a vSphere or Hyper-V or KVM. And then the key point, of course, is that when you provide this choice, you need consistency, right? Most of the vendors provide one-to-one, so they can sort of provide some sort of levels there. But as a customer, if you choose multiple of these, how do you guarantee that the policies or the security or policies are enforced the same way across your private cloud infrastructure as well as the public cloud and across multiple public clouds? So one of the technologies we introduced is called the InterCloud Fabric, which is essentially a solution that connects an enterprise private cloud to a public cloud. We are working with multiple partners. We announced a lot of partnership in the last month or so, from British Telecom to Portuguese Telecom to Telstra and all the different providers across the world, essentially providing this public cloud service, and you can consistently move to any of them and be able to guarantee either you have networking requirements that needs to be consistent, or security requirements, visibility requirements, and also not only move to the cloud but also be able to bring back the workload as you see fit. So as you can see, the virtual networking has sort of evolved from having to provide sort of consistency between virtual and physical networks to be able to provide the end-to-end automated infrastructure where physical and virtual actually is orchestrated by a single controller to provide applications that are physical workloads or multiple hypervisor workloads. And also eventually as you move to a hybrid cloud model where you need to move to multiple clouds across these hypervisor sets, and again provide similar consistency and control for the enterprise users. And that's sort of, hopefully I covered some of your requirements around what you need to do in the data center and the hybrid cloud. Thank you.